You know, there's an old saying, and that saying is the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. And I knew I was going to talk about this story and from what angle I was initially going to go from it with. But then, after doing some digging that didn't even require me to do that much digging, after I found this picture, I found two more images related to this that I found to be very interesting. So interesting, in fact, it took me about a good 5 to 10 minutes to get this video started because I began to chuckle immensely, like I saw the funniest thing on earth. Like I could not control my laughter, so I had to bring myself down just to press record to make this video. And y'all will see what I mean when I get there, because this thing has layers. When I say it has layers and it goes deeper than Lauren Boebert's son and what he did, I mean just that. So stay locked in for the entire video. So this is a picture right here, of course, of Lauren Boebert, and right next to her is her son, whose name is Tyler J. Boebert, and he's 18 years old. Now, I wonder if this is the son that just had the child that made her a very young grandmother. Keep in mind, Lauren Boebert is a teen mom herself, and I believe her mother was a teen mom too. It's like it's an endless cycle with them. When I tell you Ratchet does not have a color and Lauren Boebert represents that, you'll see what I mean. Wholeheartedly understand what I mean when I say that, and hang on to that, because it has now rubbed off onto her son, and not only her son but some others as well, but we'll get there. It says Tyler J. Boebert is 18 and faces 5 felony charges and more than a dozen misdemeanor offenses. As a matter of fact, in total, he faces 22 charges, with 5 of them being felonies. Representative Lauren Boebert's oldest son was arrested Tuesday and faces 22 criminal charges, including 5 felonies following a string of alleged thefts in Colorado. Tyler Boebert, age 18, was slapped with 5 felony charges, 4 for criminal possession of ID documents with multiple victims, and 1 conspiracy to commit charge, according to the Rifle Police Department. The teen also faces misdemeanor charges of 4 first-degree criminal trespassing of an automobile with intent to commit a crime, 4 charges of identity theft, possession with intent to use, 2 charges for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Tyler Boebert, who turns 19 in March, which is coming up very soon. By the way, I'm recording this on the last day of February. By the time this video goes up, his birthday probably will have already come and gone. Was also handed 3 petty offenses for theft of less than $300. Boebert's arrest is not the teen's first brush with the police. In 2022, Boebert was given a careless driving causing bodily injury ticket when he flipped his father's SUV into a Garfield County creek bed, injuring his 19-year-old friend. As part of a plea deal, Tyler Boebert was ordered to attend an Alive at 25 driver awareness program. Prosecutors dropped the case to a defective vehicle for headlights ticket, but Boebert never made his April 2023 court appearance. A bench warrant was issued for the teen, who eventually called the court and requested for the hearing to be changed to a later date where he would appear virtually, reportedly sending the Alive at 25 completion certificate. In June, Lauren Boebert confirmed she was a grandmother at 36 when Tyler and his girlfriend gave birth to their first son. Earlier this month, a Republican congresswoman was granted a restraining order against her ex-husband, Jason Boebert, who had allegedly threatened to harm her and himself over a 14-month period. Jason Boebert was released on bail from the Garfield County Jail following his arrest on assault charges 1 day after he claimed Lauren Boebert punched him in the face in a case of domestic violence. He made multiple suicidal threats and threats to harm me over the past 14 months, the lawmaker claimed in a Garfield County court filing on February 2nd. Tyler's 3 younger siblings were also included under the protection, but because he is an adult, he was not included. In December, Boebert announced she would not seek re-election for her current seat, but instead run in Colorado's 4th congressional district. I'm going to do everything in my power to represent the 3rd district well for the remainder of this term as I work to earn the trust of grassroots conservative voters in the 4th district to represent them in 2025, Boebert, age 37, said in a statement on Facebook announcing her decision. Boebert currently has nearly $1.3 million war chest, according to the federal campaign finance filings, and faces a field of 4 other Republican candidates, including former Colorado State Senator Jerry Sonnenberg. She finished 5th in a straw poll last month behind Sonnenberg, State Representative Mike Lynch, Deborah Flora, and State Representative Richard Holtorf in that order. So you got a little bit of a background there about when it comes to Lauren Boebert, well, her son, which I did not know he had some other issues going on back in 2022. Now, keep in mind, this guy just, and his girlfriend, or whoever she is, just had a child. Why are you out there doing all of this and you have a whole child? Larry Elder, it sounds to me like if you want to talk about fatherlessness, you better be talking about people like Lauren Boebert's son, because what it sounded like to me is he's headed down that path of being a fatherless parent to his first child. Like, the child isn't even a year old. I think the child's only a couple months. I believe the child was born late last year, like in the 4th quarter. And he's out there doing this. Now, are they going to call him a thug? Most likely not. But remember what I told y'all initially, how I said the apple doesn't fall far from the tree? Well, that leads me to this. Do y'all see this image right here? Speaking of 2022, this is Lauren Boebert's mugshot, you know, her front mugshot and her side profile. And remember, in 2022, her son also had a little run-in with the law at that time. So again, it seems to me, I don't know, maybe if it was a family thing where they wanted to go ahead and decide they wanted to get matching mugshots. But she was arrested twice. Now, let me go ahead and get into this article coming from The Independent that's dated July 13th, 2022. Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert recounted her brush with the law in the pages of her newly released book, My American Life. In a chapter titled Pretty Little Mugshots, the MAGA lawmaker lays out her version of the events that led to her being arrested twice, booked, and photographed prior to her ascension to the House of Representatives. Now look at how that just reads. I got this mugshot, and look at where I am now. Isn't that kind of like what they were doing, or try to hype up with Trump and him having the mugshots like he's supposed to have street cred? I guess if it was up to Lauren, if she had a little bit more clout, they would have said she has street cred too. Same with her son. Her first story recounts a 2015 incident during an event called Country Jam, where her restaurant Shooter's Grill was invited to work as a food vendor. She recalled losing one of her employees to the event's many distractions, including hunky cowboys wandering the grounds, which prompted her to go search for the gun-toting waitress herself. While she searched the event for her wayward worker, Ms. Boebert says she encountered a tent manned by the Mesa County Sheriff's Office. According to Boebert, the local news media issues Daily Country Jam incident reports with the number of arrests for disorderly conduct minus for in possession and other infractions you'd expect when thousands of people come together and drink all day. Ms. Boebert would soon be among those cited in the local paper's incident reports. Her version of the story goes like this. Ms. Boebert approached the sheriff's detention area while searching for her lost employee. There she saw a young woman was sitting in a chair holding a citation and asking a sheriff's deputy if she could leave. She was pointing and explaining that her mother was nearby. It seemed odd that the deputy wasn't allowing the gal to leave. I mean, she'd already been given a citation. The longer the deputy left her there, the more upset the young woman became. The woman went to stand up, and a deputy aggressively grabbed her and sat her back down. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, she wrote. Without hesitation, I started yelling from 15 yards away and quickly made my way over. I was fired up. It bothered me seeing this young girl being treated so harshly. She said she began questioning the deputy as to why the girl was being detained and if she was been put under arrest. The deputy allegedly told her to butt out and that it wasn't her business, which further infuriated Ms. Boebert. She refused an order from the deputy to leave. It sounds like she's resisting to me and not complying to the orders, but you know, they feel like they're above the fray. She refused an order from the deputy to leave, saying the first deputy had overstepped his bounds when he aggressively forced this woman back into the chair and tried to intimidate her. The situation broke down into a screaming match between Ms. Boebert and the deputy. She began filming and threatening to take the incident to the press, which prompted a deputy to try to grab her phone. She said, "The next thing I knew, I was in handcuffs and on my way to the detention area." She was cited and missed her court date. When she went to settle the issue, she was arrested and a mugshot was taken. The case was then dismissed. The lawmaker claimed she was told her case would be expunged, but it never was. The deputies told a slightly different version of events. Their account included Ms. Boebert screaming into the tent to a group of minors who had been detained for underage drinking, telling them that they hadn't been read their Miranda rights and encouraged them to leave the tent. Lauren continued yelling and causing the underage drinkers to become unruly, the deputy statement reported at the time. Lauren's behavior was becoming likely to cause a disorderly response from those in the area attending the concert. The press she threatened to go to were her friends at Fox News, who she claimed would make her arrest national news. Now, I actually believe their version of it rather than hers, considering her behavior. Her second brush with the law occurred a year later when she and her husband were driving home after closing up her restaurant. In order to get home, she said she had to drive up Stephen Hills, the steepest and most dangerous road in the town. It's a tough drive during the day, but especially so at night. There's a tight hairpin turn without no guardrail, where plenty of people have had accidents. Some have even died. With that in mind, I drove slowly up the hill, but danger was literally around the corner as my front wheel caught the edge of the shoulder and the truck slid off the side and flipped into a ditch 15 feet below. Ms. Boebert and her husband left the crash site and walked home to call in the incident. When they returned to the scene to meet with the state trooper, he cited her for reckless driving. Months had passed and Ms. Boebert found herself in a position that many parents have faced. She was disheveled, running late, and her kids needed to get to school. She admits that she was speeding in order to meet her obligations when she was pulled over by a police officer. She soon learned that there was a warrant out for her arrest as she had failed to pay her first ticket for reckless driving on the night she flipped her truck, and she then again was arrested. This was not a proud mom moment, she wrote. Despite laying out in detail all of the extenuating circumstances and injustices that colored her arrest, Ms. Boebert does not take responsibility for her actions near the end of the chapter. But when it gets down to it, I don't really have an excuse. I should have shown up to court. I should have paid the tickets on time. I should have shown law enforcement the respect they deserve, she wrote. I should have played by the rules. However, even in a chapter dedicated to her transgressions, Ms. Boebert is sure to remind the readers of the truly nefarious actors in the world, the Democrats. Democrats, as they do, would work double time to convince the world I was a lawless, dangerous criminal, the lawmaker who once joked about being relieved that Representative Ilhan Omar didn't have a backpack, insinuating she could have been in an Islamic suicide bomber, said. They'd spend millions of dollars plastering my mugshots across all forms of media, going as so far to slap "wanted" in all caps across the mugshots. Now, those quotes right there are coming from her book that she put out there. So as you can also see, they laid out the details of the 2 times that this woman was arrested. Like I told you, ratchet does not have a color. But again, to further say that the apple does not fall far from the tree, there's one more person in the Boebert clan that has to be addressed, and they were slightly touched upon in the first article I read that was focusing on her son's previous arrest for the charges in which he has accrued. And the person I was referring to is Jason Boebert, who is the ex-husband of Lauren Boebert and the father to Tyler Boebert. So I had to skim a little bit to find something to talk about as it pertains to him, because they don't have a whole article write-up dedicated to him. But apparently his mugshot is from back in 2004. So I'm going to go ahead and read the excerpt from the Independent, because they actually wrote up a whole article talking about all 3 of them as far as their arrest history goes. It says, Boebert outlines some of the more historical offenses in her book. The first was the arrest of Jason in 2004, before they were legally married and after they met at the Rifle McDonald's when she was 16 and he was 22. We had a common law marriage until I was almost 21, but since a common law marriage isn't sufficient for some insurance purposes, we got officially married in 2007, the devoted Christian wrote in My American Life. 3 years before that, however, Jason had been involved in a controversial incident at a local hangout on a night when he decided to try to bond with my stepfather, she wrote. The 2 of them went to the Rifle bowling alley and got to chatting over drinks. The female bartender flirted with Jason, having heard previously from his friends what a catch he'd be. They even teased her by saying he gotten a great tattoo in a private area, which made her curious, so she pressed Jason to show it to her right there at the bar. He ignored her and was embarrassed she was doing it in front of my stepfather. The bartender, Boebert wrote, wouldn't stop. Jason, clearly having had too much to drink, decided he'd heard enough, stood up, and acted like he was going to unzip his pants. Before he got that far, the owner of the bowling alley intervened. He told Jason to stop and kicked him out. Jason felt he was the one being harassed and didn't want to leave. The two argued and Jason threw a basket of fries at the owner. The police were called. The bartender told police Jason exposed himself, she wrote, but she also turned out to be 17, which made it illegal for her to be working as a bartender in the first place, Boebert complained. It also meant he was arrested for indecent exposure to a minor. He took a plea deal because he was a young oil field worker without a lawyer or the desire to hire one. He was left with a charge on his permanent record, but it wouldn't be long, it seems, before other members of the family would be trotting right after him. So that's the little backstory on his arrest right there. So as you can tell by everything that I just told you, so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You have the father, you have the mother, and you have the son. All three of them have had at least one mugshot in their lifetime for doing something dumb. You can arrange the order of least dumb to most dumb in the comment sections if you want to, but the fact of the matter is they all have a mugshot. But I'm telling you right now, that Lauren Boebert is something else and has been for quite some time. Keep in mind, this is the same woman that was having sexual, I guess you could say, relations inside of a theater where people were trying to watch a play, and she got all belligerent and whatnot. This is also the same woman who almost got into a fight. Well, her and Marjorie Taylor Greene almost got into a fight right there on that Congress room floor, of all places. So I'm not surprised by this at all. And when they did the account of her arrest, I believe what the cops say rather than what she said, mainly because we are aware of this woman's behavior and have been aware of her behavior for quite some time. Again, this shows you right here, Ratchet does not have a color. It really doesn't. This is three pieces of proof right here. What started off as me supposed to be just talking about her son literally transitioned me into learning more about her and her ex-husband. And the way I found that out is because when I was looking up his mugshot, it pulled up her mugshot and his. So I said, oh, I definitely got to take this opportunity to really break it down so now we can see it's a generational thing. Apparently that's the direction it's going. We hope that it doesn't become a generational curse, but the way it's looking right now, that's what it's looking like. After all, remember, Lauren Boebert's, like I said, mother was a teen mom. She was a teen mom. She doesn't have any daughters, but she has her oldest son who became a teen dad. And then think about the man she was married to. He met her when he was 22 and she was 16. You can't tell me they weren't doing something before they got legally married a few years later. You can't tell me that did not happen. So, but you know, I guess that's how it gets down or goes down in Colorado.